Okay, so just think about this for a second. How many passwords do you actually remember?
Oh, not many.
Exactly. And that's why we have single sign-on, right? It's the holy grail. You log in one time, the gates just sort of swing open, and you're in Jira, Slack, Salesforce, I mean, everything.
It's efficiency. We
Yeah.
spent the last, what, decade consolidating everything.
We did. We built these huge centralized fortresses for our digital identities. But there's always that flip side, that risk, when you centralize access.
You centralize risk. That one key opens every single door.
And that is the precise tension that we're seeing just snap this week.
It's being weaponized on a massive scale.
Yeah, it really is. We are deep diving into some breaking news from yesterday, Monday, January 26th. And look, this is not some, theoretical vulnerability. We're talking about a live, active identity theft campaign.
And it's targeting roughly 100 high-value organizations.
The names on this list are just, it's a who's who of the sauce world. You've got Canva, Epic Games, Atlassian, RingCentral, ZoomInfo.
It's a really sweeping campaign. And what stands out to me right away isn't just the targets, it's the mechanism.
Right.
We're not seeing some sophisticated, zero-day exploit in the software. We're seeing a breakdown in the human layer, the verification itself.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We need to unpack the who this group they're calling ShinyHunters and the how. How are they getting past security we all thought was safe, like, standard MFA?
And we have to get into the conflicting stories. The security firms are saying one thing, and the criminals themselves are, well, they're emailing reporters saying something else entirely.
It's a real fog of war. Our sources here are some amazing exclusive reporting from the Register. They actually talk to the threat actors.
Which is wild. And we're also pulling from the technical side from firms like Silent Push and, of course, Google's Mandiant unit.
So let's start with them, the antagonists. ShinyHunters. The name, I don't know, it sounds almost playful, right?
Like a mobile game, yeah.
Yeah.
But their track record is anything but. And their behavior here is just loud, unusually loud.
Brazen. That's the word.
Completely brazen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, usually you see these advanced groups, they want to stay quiet, they want persistence to stay in the network undetected for as long as possible.
But these guys are communicating directly with the press. They're giving quotes to the Register. They're shaping the story while the attack is still going on.
It feels like a total pivot in strategy. Usually this kind of public thing only happens after, the ransom demand gets ignored.
Right. It's like they're running a PR campaign and a hacking campaign at the same time.
And that creates so much psychological pressure. It leads to this conflict in the reporting. On one side, you've got the researchers at Silent Push.
Okay.
They put out a report saying they detected active targeting. So
Right.
infrastructure prep, domain spoofing, basically casing the joint.
But active targeting is a really specific phrase, isn't it? It means they see the gun being loaded, but not necessarily fired.
Exactly. Silent Push was very, very careful to say they haven't confirmed successful breaches for most of these 100 companies.
But then you have ShinyHunters who just email a reporter and say,
They told the Register the number of actual successful breaches is close to 100. They're claiming they're already inside, while the security tools are still just flagging attempts.
that is a nightmare for a CISO. You're looking at your dashboard, seeing some blocked phishing links, thinking, okay, we're good.
And meanwhile, the attackers are on the news claiming they have the keys to your kingdom.
It forces you to prove a negative, to prove you haven't been breached, which is, it's almost impossible to do quickly.
And it messes with your response. Is this just targeting, where you block a few IPs? Or do you trigger a full-blown incident response?
Let's get into the mechanics, because this is where it gets really sticky. We're talking about Atlassian, Canva. These are not small shops. They have world-class security teams.
The best of the best.
So how is this happening? Mandiant's CTO, Charles Carmichael, he was very clear this is not a software bug.
No, and that is what's so frustrating for the engineers. There's no patch for this. It's what they're calling evolved voice phishing. Phishing.
It's social engineering.
It's a social engineering attack that just exploits our human desire to be helpful.
This sounds a lot like the scattered spider playbook, the whole help desk scam thing we saw a couple of years back.
It's very much in that style. The attackers, they do their homework. They'll scrape LinkedIn, look at org charts. So when they call an employee, they might pose as IT support.
Or like a security compliance officer or something.
Exactly. They use the right jargon. They might have a fake ticket number. They might talk about a system migration.
So the employee is a call, maybe the number is even spoofed to look internal, and this calm professional voice says, "Hey, we're seeing some weird activity, we just need to re-authenticate you."
And in that moment, the employee isn't thinking about security protocols. They're thinking, I don't want my account locked, or I should help this IT guy.
So they give up their username and password. But wait, almost all these places have multi-factor authentication.
They do.
Yeah.
And this is the critical part. This is the bypass. We've trained people to think, okay, even if I give up my password, they don't have my phone.
Right, they can't get the code.
But ShinyHunters isn't trying to get the code to log in just once. They are playing for keeps, for persistence.
Okay, so what's the move?
They have the credentials. So while they are still on the phone with the victim, they log in. The victim gets an MFA prompt, a push notification maybe. And the attacker just says,
Oh, I'm sending a verification to your phone. Just go ahead and approve that for me.
go ahead and approve that so we can resync your token. And the user, they tap allow.
Or they read the 6-digit code out loud.
And here is the kicker.
Yeah.
The attacker isn't just going in to read email. They immediately go to the identity management settings, Okta, Microsoft, whatever, and they enroll a new device.
They add their own phone, their own authenticator app.
Correct. And once that new device is enrolled, they don't need the victim anymore. They can generate their own MFA codes. They have effectively cloned that employee's entire digital identity.
That is just devious. It's abusing the self-service features that IT departments set up to make life easier.
Of course, we want users to be able to set up their new iPhone without calling the help desk. But that convenience, that's the vulnerability.
It's a race condition. The security depends on the user realizing, wait, I didn't just buy a new phone.
But the person on the phone is telling them, we're just updating your device registration. So the alarm bells, they just don't go off.
So ShinyHunters is inside, valid credentials, valid MFA, what are they after? The outline says they pivot to SaaS environments.
Right, which brings us back to the targets. If they breach a company like Betterment, which they claim they have,
Which is a huge claim.
a massive claim, they're after user data, PII, financial records. They told the register they got over 20 million records from Betterment and 2 million from Crunchbase.
Let's just pause on that number. 20 million records from a financial institution. That's not just some tech tool. That's people's savings.
It is. And again, we have to treat it as a claim from a criminal group. But even if the number's inflated, the fact they got access at all is the major concern.
And if they breach a company like Atlassian, the risk is totally different.
Entirely. Then you're not just worried about user data. You're worried about source code, API keys, credentials they could use to pivot into other companies' systems.
The supply chain risk. Compromise the tool that everyone uses to build software.
And you could potentially compromise the software itself. That's the nightmare scenario.
No.
And it explains why the list of targets is so broad. AppLovin, Genesis, HubSpot, Iron Mountain.
They're hitting the pillars of modern business.
Data storage, CRM, marketing. They're just shaking the tree to see what falls out, whether it's data for extortion or just leverage.
And the extortion angle is so important now. It's not about encrypting files anymore, is it?
Not with these SaaS breaches. It's about data theft and the threat of a leak. Why bother locking up a computer if you can just threaten to dump 20 million customer records on the dark web? It's cleaner.
Okay, let's talk defense. Because anyone listening to this is probably thinking, well, I use an authenticator app, not SMS, I'm safe. Or we use push notifications. But Mandiant is basically throwing cold water on that whole idea.
They are. They are essentially declaring the death of what they call phishable MFA. And that category includes SMS, voice codes, and yes, even standard push notifications.
Because all of them rely on the human. The user is the bridge. And if you can be tricked into tapping yes or reading a number, the whole thing falls apart.
It's the classic adversary in the middle problem. The attacker sits between you and the application. The app sends a code to you. You give it to the attacker gives it to the app.
The chain is broken by a good con artist. So what stops this? Mandiant is pushing for something called FIDO2.
Right.
We hear about FIDO2 and passkeys a lot, but let's get technical for a second. Why does a FIDO2 key stop a guy on the phone from tricking me?
The magic words are origin binding.
Origin binding. Okay, break that down for me.
So traditional MFA proves who you are. You have the code. FIDO2 proves who you are and where you are. When you use a hardware key, like a YubiKey or a passkey on your phone,
Okay.
the browser and that authenticator do a cryptographic handshake with the website.
So the key is literally checking the URL in the address bar.
In simple terms, yeah. The key asks the browser, what domain are we actually talking to right now? If the answer is oko.mycompany.com, it signs the request. But if the attacker has you on a fake login page at oka-support-help.com,
The handshake fails.
the handshake fails. Or, and this is the crucial part for phishing, if the attacker is trying to log in from their computer in another country, the handshake fails. The request didn't originate from the device that holds the key.
The protocol requires physical presence of the key.
Correct. So if I call you and trick you, you can plug your key into your computer and you will successfully log in. But that does me no good on my computer. I can't ask you to read me a code because there is no code.
And you can't ask me to tap allow because the request never even gets to my device if the domains don't match.
Exactly. It just neuters the entire phishing script. The attacker can be the smoothest talker in the world, have all your passwords, but they physically cannot bridge that second factor.
So why isn't every single company doing this? If FIDO2 is the silver bullet, why are we still using 6-digit codes?
Friction and cost. Rolling out hardware keys to 10,000 employees is a huge logistical lift. People lose them, they forget them at home.
True.
Now, passkeys are making this easier because we all have phones with biometrics. But legacy systems don't always support them. It's a whole infrastructure overhaul.
But I've got to think, with 100 major companies in the crosshairs, the ROI on that overhaul is starting to look pretty good.
The math has definitely shifted. A hardware key costs, what, $50? A ShinyHunters breach costs, well, it could cost you the entire business.
Beyond the hardware, Mandiant also had advice for the IT admins, right? If you can't roll out YubiKeys tomorrow, what can you look for in the logs today?
You have to hunt for anomalies in device enrollment. That's the smoking gun. IT teams should be setting up alerts for any MFA device registration that happens outside of a normal workflow.
So if a user in San Francisco who has always used an iPhone for 3 years suddenly registers a new Android device from an IP in Florida,
That should be a 5-alarm fire. But it can be more subtle. Look for timing. An enrollment that happens during a weird time or right after a bunch of failed push notifications, that pattern, spamming the user until they give in, that's a clear indicator.
it almost feels like we need to rethink the whole self-service culture. Maybe you shouldn't be able to enroll a new security device without, I don't know, a manager's approval or a video call.
Mandiant suggests exactly that. Tighten the authorization. If you're in a high-threat window and if you're on that list of 100 you are, then maybe you turn off self-service enrollment for a while. Add that friction back into the system.
We spent so long trying to remove friction to make things user-friendly, and now we're realizing that friction was the only thing slowing the attackers down.
Security is always a pendulum. It swings between convenience and safety. We swung a little too far toward convenience with tap to approve. Now it has to swing back.
You know, there's a broader point here I want to touch on. What hacking even means is changing. It's not guys in hoodies typing furiously anymore.
No.
This is just con artistry. It's a confidence game.
It's the industrialization of social engineering. The technical walls, the encryption, they're incredibly high, so attackers are just walking around them and going straight for the human operating system.
And that erodes trust in a really deep way. If I can't trust that the person calling me from IT support is actually IT support, how does a remote company even function?
It forces a zero-trust mindset, not just for networks, but for human communication. We might be moving to a world where you just don't conduct sensitive business over the phone unless there's a second way to verify.
So verify, then trust. Or maybe.
Or maybe just verify and still don't really trust. The era of the help desk call as a trusted thing is probably over. If someone calls you asking for access, the default answer has to be, I'm hanging up and calling you back on an official number.
It's a harsh reality, but that's where we are. We're moving from a world where we prove who we are with what we know, a password, to a world where we prove it with what we have.
And where we are. Physical presence. That's the only thing that really beats a remote attacker.
So for everyone listening, if you're an admin, please check your logs for new device enrollments. If you're a user and you get a call from IT, maybe just be the difficult employee for once. Hang up. Double check.
Being that difficult employee might just save your company millions of dollars.
I think that's the takeaway. Be skeptical, be secure, and maybe go order a couple of hardware keys. Thanks for walking us through all this.
Always a pleasure.
Stay curious and watch out for those vishers. We'll see you on the next deep dive.